Hey, welcome to Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women. Whether you want to attract your ideal woman for one night or for a lifetime, understanding how long things usually take with a woman can be very helpful. And so, in this presentation, I'm going to go over 6 female timelines with you that you might encounter when you're interacting with women. And I want you to keep in mind that these are just guidelines. It can vary from person to person, of course. However, over the past 20 plus years of studying this stuff intensely and looking at thousands and thousands of examples from the real world, these are the basic guidelines for how long things usually take with a woman. And this also assumes that you're in the West. This can vary culturally as well. So, if you're from Thailand, it might be a little different than if you're in Nebraska. Some of them aren't that variable. It usually takes about the same amount of time for a woman to fall deeply in love with a man, for example. But some of the other ones are a lot more variable, like how long it takes for a woman to kind of want to be your girlfriend. And in some cultures, they don't even have dating or boyfriend and girlfriend at all. They just get married with very little dating because it's more of an arranged kind of situation. And so the 6 female timelines that I'm going to cover in this presentation assume that you're in the West, and they are just guidelines. They're not actual rules. However, we should know the general guidelines so that we kind of know what to expect in general, and then you can adjust it from there when you're out there in the real world with a real woman. And with all of that in mind, now let's get to the 6 timelines that I want to cover in this presentation. So, this first one is actually the most variable of all of the timelines, and it's how long it usually takes to hook up with a woman, assuming she's interested in that. Well, again, this is the most variable timeline because I have personally witnessed a woman going up to a man that she's never even talked to before and started to kiss him. So this could happen basically immediately without even any talking. That can happen. And it can happen very quickly. A woman can meet a man at the bar, and 10 minutes later, she can be out the door going to his place. That can happen. And a lot of guys don't even believe that that's possible because it is pretty rare. But it does happen if the woman is very interested in a guy and she's ready to go and that's what she really wants. I've personally witnessed that happening. So it can be immediately. On the other hand, if you meet a woman, even if she is interested in hooking up with a guy that same night, it might take you a few hours of talking with her and going through the process with her and making sure she feels comfortable with you and attracted at the same time. And you don't want to rush any of those steps. She's going to kind of determine how fast it is. You just keep leading that process and seeing how she responds to that. And her response is going to tell you how quickly you can go. It's up to her, really, at the end of the day. So if she wants it immediately, it can happen immediately. And I've actually seen women get mad as well that the guy wasted her time and didn't take her home soon enough. I have seen that as well personally. It's very interesting if you're not aware that that can happen. So it can happen quickly, but not always. It's up to her. And each individual woman you meet is probably going to be on a different timeline in terms of this, in terms of how attracted she is to you and how ready and willing she is right now to hook up with a guy. Sometimes it's right now, sometimes it's after a few hours, and sometimes it takes about 1 to 3 dates. And so if you've taken her out 2 or 3 times and you're leading her through the process correctly, it should happen by the 3rd date at the latest, where you're at least kissing. And if not, in my opinion, if you're just going for hookups, at that point, it's the time to move on. So the female timeline for just hooking up is immediately all the way up into 2 or 3 times of hanging out with her. That's the general range. And so just be aware of that when you're out there interacting with women. And assuming she's interested in you and she also wants to hook up, all you have to do is follow the process inside the good guy guide with her. And if she goes through that process with you, then she's probably ready to hook up with you. And so inside the good guy guide, if you already have it, you know that we talk about the exact step-by-step process to walk a woman through to make sure that she feels as attracted to you as possible and as comfortable with you as possible at the same time, so that she's ready to go back to your place or her place or wherever, and so you both still feel good about it in the morning. And so if you don't have the good guy guide yet and you're just kind of having fun and going for hookups for now, definitely make sure you go through that system as soon as you can. And then if you hook up with a woman, assuming you did everything right and you followed that process with her and you start hooking up with her, the next timeline is how long it takes for her to possibly catch feelings for you once you hook up with her more than once. So this is something to really keep in mind when you're talking about just going for hookups and or kind of friends with benefits situations. Most of the time, what I've observed is that one of the two people in a friends with benefits situation eventually starts catching real feelings for the other person. It doesn't always happen every single time, but it's very common and a lot more common than you might realize. And now sometimes a woman is just like totally into hooking up and that's it, and she's going to have a hard line about that. But sometimes even a woman who appears that way, when you hook up with her once, let's say you hook up with her a second time and now a third time, if she continues to kind of spend time with you and hook up with you, at a certain point, most women, even the ones who seem like they don't want something at first, and you're totally cool with that, you're going with that, a lot of times they will catch feelings for you. And you should be aware of this because you don't want to hurt her. You don't want to use her or lead her on. And so just make sure that you're very clear if you don't want a relationship with her and you've hooked up with her a couple of times, make sure it's established that that's not the direction you're going in. And once you hook up with her 3 times, that's kind of the point where you wanna make that very clear. Now, you don't have to just come out and say that very clearly during that time. But, like, let's say she starts hinting at that she's starting to catch feelings or starting to possibly want something else. That's when you have to be very clear and very honest about what your intentions are. And so just keep in mind that no matter how much it seems like a woman just wants a hookup with you, and that might be true, if it happens a couple, 3, 4 times, she might start catching feelings no matter how clear it was in the beginning that it wasn't gonna go that way. And you might have to be very clear with her at that point that that's not what you want. And eventually, you might have to stop seeing her just to stop that momentum towards a relationship if you really don't want that and she really does. It might be better to just kind of cut it off at that point. But I'll leave that up to you. And then if you want to attract your ideal woman for a long-term relationship, we want her to fall deeply in love with you. And what that means is that her romantic interest level in you is 9 out of 10 or higher, because women have a sliding scale of romantic interest in a man. She can be a 1 out of 10 and be kind of open to him and a little bit interested, like he piqued her interest. She can be like a 6 out of 10, like, hey, I really like this guy. Or she can be a 9 out of 10, oh, I'm deeply in love with him. And it's much better for both you and her if her interest level in you rises to 9 out of 10 and then stays there as long as you're with her. That's the ideal situation that we want to be in. Because a woman who has 9 out of 10 interest in you treats you better and she feels better than a woman who has 6 out of 10 interest in you, or a woman who has 2 out of 10 interest in you and now she's kind of tolerating you. She's kind of like, she hasn't lost all of her interest in you yet, but she's not really feeling it as strongly as we want her to. And so we want her to have 9 out of 10 interest level or above. And 99% of the time, it's not going to be at that level when you first meet her. So this is a big point for most men to understand. When you go out on your first date with an amazing woman, you might have a 9 out of 10 interest in her right then. It doesn't take as long in general most of the time for us. Women can fall in love at first sight as well, but it's a lot more rare than for us. And so the way that you feel about her after one amazing date is how she might feel about you after 3 amazing dates or 6 or 10. It takes longer in general most of the time for a woman to reach that level of interest. Whereas for us, we have one amazing date. We're like, wow, I really like this woman. I could marry her. It usually most of the time takes longer for her. And this one is less contextual. This one applies across cultural lines, across different countries, etc., because it's about a woman's real romantic feelings, not the kind of logistics of becoming your girlfriend or your wife. So, in terms of a woman's feelings for you as a man and her love for you, if you want her to fall in love with you, this next one is not as contextual as some of the others. And so, how long does it usually take a woman to fall deeply in love with a guy, assuming she has some interest in him to begin with? Well, it usually takes about 2 to 3 months or 6 to 10 dates. And that's assuming that you do everything right with her. So if you make a few mistakes, it might go down a little bit, then you got to raise it again, etc. Sometimes it can happen in a month, 3 or 4 dates, it might happen, but usually it's that 6 to 10 date range over the course of about 2 to 3 months, assuming you're kind of not doing things that lower her interest during that time. And again, for us, sometimes it happens on the first date. You're like, I already love this woman. I could marry her tomorrow. She's incredible. She can feel that way about you too, but it's probably most of the time going to take her a little bit longer. But it's not forever. It's just 2 to 3 months or 6 to 10 dates. Whereas for us, it's like we get to the third date. It's like, what are you talking about? We're already there. And again, this is a general thing because sometimes it is the other way around, where a woman falls in love at first sight and the man has to catch up a little bit. But it's not usually that way. 99% of the time, she's going to have a slightly lower level of interest in you than you are in her because women have to protect themselves a little bit more when it comes to this stuff. And so just keep that in mind when you're out there. If you have really strong feelings for a woman, just remember she can probably get there too if she has some interest in you. You just have to be patient and use self control and be a challenge with her and give her that time to catch up. That's kind of what the beginning part of your connection with the woman is all about. It's just kind of you letting her interest level in you catch up to your interest level in her. That's what we want to do during those first 2 to 3 months. And of course, if you want to know exactly what to do during those first 2 to 3 months so she does fall deeply in love with you, and then also how to make sure she stays in love with you forever, make sure you get the Attract and Keep Her system if you haven't already. Because inside the Attract and Keep Her system, we go over exactly what to do with her step by step from the first moment you meet her until she falls deeply in love with you and then stays deeply in love with you as long as you want to be with her. And so make sure you go through the Attract and Keep Her system if you haven't already, because all you have to do is follow the steps with her. And if she has interest in you to begin with, she will fall deeply in love with you if you do everything right with her over time. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. And then if you do everything right with her, or at least most things right with her, she's eventually gonna want to get married probably. That's the usual course of things. If you're doing everything right with her, she's probably gonna wanna get married. And how long does that usually take? That usually takes about 6 months to 2 years. It can happen at the 1 year mark, it can happen at 1.5 years, it can happen at 2 years, and it can happen at 6 months. So it takes a couple of months, 2 to 3 months for her to fall in love, and then it usually takes a few more months up to 2 years for her to want to marry you. And what you wanna do is just kinda pay attention to things that she's talking about, because eventually, at some point, if she wants to marry you, she's gonna kinda bring it up. And she might not be direct about it. She might say things like, "Oh, hey, my friend was looking at engagement rings the other day, and I thought this one was really beautiful." She might bring up the topic in kind of a roundabout way, but once she starts wanting to marry you, she probably will bring it up in some way. And actually, not only should you pay attention to that because it tells you when she's ready for that and when you can ask her to marry you, it's not just about that. It's also about how she handles things in life. So let's say that she does fall deeply in love with you during those first 2 to 3 months, and now you're with her for a while. And now she's like, man, I really just want to marry this guy. How she handles that will tell you a lot about how she's going to handle other things throughout your life with her. And so, for example, does she bring it up with you once or twice and then kind of trust that you're going to do it with her? Or does she start nagging you about it already? Does she bring it up a lot and start insisting that you get married, kind of? How does she communicate with you about this? This is a really good test of her character and how she's likely to interact with you over the course of your relationship with her. So pay attention to that. How does she bring it up? Does she bring it up too much? Does she kind of start nagging you already? If that's the case, you can kind of expect that behavior about other things throughout your life. And then maybe she's not the right woman for you. But if she does it in kind of a sweet way where she just wants to get married to you because she really likes you, and she brings it up once or twice, and then you kind of handle it together, that's a really great sign. And so, assuming that you're doing everything right to raise her interest level in the beginning and then maintain her romantic interest level once it gets to 9 out of 10, she's probably going to eventually start wanting to marry you. And that usually takes about 6 months up to 2 years. And on the other side of that, if you don't want to be with her anymore, you're not sure you want to get married to her, and it's been more than 2 years, the clock of when you should kind of break up with her and move on to the next woman starts at that point too. You shouldn't lead her on either. She's super sure she wants to get married to you, and you're not so sure, and it's been more than 2 years, and now it's 3 years and 4 years, and you're kind of wasting her time at that point. So that's a really good point to kind of cut things off if that's the way it's going, where she really wants to get married and you're really not sure, or you really don't. That's about the right time to start trying to cut it off. And actually, one of the things that I've noticed in studying this stuff for over 20 years now is that this is actually the hardest thing for a man to do, is kind of breaking things off, especially when she hasn't done anything wrong. She is deeply in love with you. She is a cool person, and you're just not feeling it. It's very difficult because you still have that kind of aw kind of feelings towards her, but you just don't have that romantic feeling towards her as much as you want. And it's hard for us in general, most of the time, as far as what I've seen, to cut it off at that point. But it is the best thing for her to do if you really care about her. If she's feeling strongly that she wants to get married and you don't, you should cut it off and let her go and not waste her time. That's the right thing to do instead of kind of stringing her along. So be aware of this from all aspects. Whether you want to get married to her, you got to wait until she brings up that subject, and she'll usually do it between 6 months and 2 years. So kind of look for that if that's what you want. And if you're not really sure or you don't want to get married to her, just keep in mind that after a couple of years with you, if she does have high interest in you, she probably will start to want the next step. And you should just have that in the back of your mind as well. And then let's say you do want to move forward with her to the next step, or you do want to continue being with her, and she is deeply in love with you, and you manage to keep her in love with you over the long term. The next one is that there is something to the 7-year itch. And what I mean by that in this presentation is that if you can actually maintain her interest level at 9 out of 10 or higher, where she is actually deeply in love with you for those first 7 years, it's very likely that you can continue that way forever with her. So if she still feels deeply in love with you after 7 years, it's not that you can really relax and stop doing the maintenance program. You always have to continue giving her the maintenance program if you want her interest level to remain high. It's just the way it is. So it's not like you can just all of a sudden change everything and then it's going to stay there. However, if you've gotten to that point where you've been with her for 7 years and you both have those real feelings for each other still because you work to maintain it and you followed the maintenance program, it's extremely likely that you can continue that to the end. And it's also a period of time where if her interest level isn't as high, things can start to break down more than before at that point. So there is something to that 7-year mark when you're together with someone for 7 years, where things can either keep going into strength or they can start falling apart even more than before. So if you are dating your ideal woman and you raise her interest level to 9 out of 10 or above, and you want to keep being with her, shoot for that 7-year mark of implementing that maintenance program until then and see how it goes until then. Put that in your mind as a marker of like, we're going to at least make it to there and then we'll see what's next. And again, if you followed the process inside Attract and Keep Her and raised her interest level to 9 out of 10 in the first place, and then you implemented the maintenance program to keep her interest level at 9 out of 10 or higher, it's going to stay there as long as you want to be with her. So just keep that 7-year window in mind in terms of how closely you're following the maintenance program, and look at it as a point to do a checkup on that and make sure you're following that as much as possible. And then lastly, how long does it take for a woman to get over a breakup or a divorce, or if her partner dies, for you to really be able to start dating her in a way where she can fall in love with you? And the answer to this one is it actually depends. This one depends on how long she was with a guy with high interest. So let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say a woman was married to a guy for 15 years. And for the last like 5 years of their marriage, she had zero romantic interest in him at all. And this is very common, by the way, because a lot of times women don't leave right when their interest level hits zero. They wait for a while because of other factors, like they have kids with him, so they think they shouldn't leave yet, or, they just have kind of a relationship momentum, it's comfortable, or they just kind of don't resent him enough to leave him yet. So a lot of times what women do subconsciously is stay with the guy and build up resentment towards him over the course of a year or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 until there's enough resentment there where she'll never feel bad about leaving him and never even have a small inkling that she might come back. And that's when she leaves, when she actively dislikes him, actively disrespects him, and her interest level is actually like -1 or -2. That's when she usually leaves, not always right at 0. And this is a lot of marriages out there where the woman has 0 interest already, and the guy just doesn't know it because she's still with him. She has just no romantic interest left. And so if she had no romantic interest in him for 5 years, she's basically ready and reset emotionally already once she leaves him, and you can start with her right away. She's already gone through the process of resetting her emotions because she didn't have any for that guy for a long time already. So that's one side of things. The other side of things is like, let's say that she was deeply in love with a guy who was really amazing. He did everything right with her. He was really cool. And she had strong feelings for him. And they were together for 15 years. And he just passed away. It's going to take longer for her emotions to fully reset. So if you're just having fun and going for hookups, that can happen anytime when she's single. But if you want to actually have her fall deeply in love with you, it is going to take some time for her emotions to fully reset where that's even possible. And in that case, the guideline for that is about 2 months for every year that she was together with him when she had high interest in him. And so if she was with him for 15 years and she loved him, it's going to take about 30 months or 2.5 years as a general guideline, roughly. And so if you meet her in that first year after that, it's going to be pretty challenging for her to actually develop those strong feelings for you. And even if it happens for a little bit, it might fall off because it's just not possible for her yet. So I'm not saying you shouldn't start dating her right away, but just keep this in mind. It might take a lot longer. You might have to be a lot more patient in that scenario for her to actually fall deeply in love with you. And you can either wait it out or kind of wait until she's at a better place and then start with her. Because you can't force it. And even if she wants to, her subconscious mind and her emotions are probably not ready yet, even if she wants to be with you and she likes you too. It's just going to take some time. So be mindful of this. If a man broke up with her and she's still in love with him, it's going to take a little longer for her to process that than if she already didn't have any feelings for him for the last 2 or 3 years and now she's out there dating again. And so that's the general guidelines for how long it takes for a woman's emotions to fully reset after a breakup or a divorce or her partner passes away. And so those are the female timelines I wanted to share with you in this presentation today. I hope that you got something good out of it and that this helps you kind of lead the process of dating forward with the right women for you. And we have a lot of other training for you For example, right here on our YouTube channel, we have a lot of other videos that you can go through. And we also have free full courses and free ebooks that you can check out. And to get any of our awesome free stuff that we try to make as helpful as possible, you can just go to datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. That's datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. And also, anytime you pick up one of our free ebooks or a free course, or you buy one of our courses, you're automatically added to our email list, and we send out an email newsletter every Thursday that we try our best to pack with as much value for you as possible. So I really hope that you can join us there as well. And again, if you want your ideal woman to fall deeply in love with you and then stay deeply in love with you as long as you want to be with her, then make sure you grab our best-selling Attract and Keep Her system if you haven't already. This system will really change how you think about dating and relationships and make you much more successful with the right woman for you. And so, if you want your ideal woman to fall deeply in love with you and then you want to build a great relationship with her, then go to attractandkeepher.com/system. That's attractandkeepher.com/system and pick up the Attract and Keep Her system right now. So now you should have a better feel for how things usually go with a woman, and you can lead the process forward with a woman with a lot more confidence. I'm Jim Wolfe with Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women. Enjoy the rest of your day.